Thanks, Chris. Now, the past few days I've had the opportunity to travel from Adelaide over to Ballarat, checking out some CTF farms and doing my favourite pastime. But I think it highlighted a couple of things for me. And the first one is that when you travel in South Australia on a bus with 10 blokes, you need to space your drinks because there's no trees, especially if you're a girl. And the other one is that, we can pay for chemical and fertiliser and machinery, but we can't buy rain. So any farming, whether you're high rainfall or low rainfall, it's all about maximising that water use. And I think already that theme's come out really well in the earlier presentations you've heard, and I'm sure you're going to hear it a lot more. So controlled traffic is just one way that we can actually manage our compaction, which limits our water use and efficiency, and then we can start building the rest of our farming system. So my name's Bindi Isbister. I'm a Development Officer for the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development based in Geraldton in Western Australia. And I work on a GRDC-funded project that's a 5-year project, and we're coming into our last 6 months. And I'm here to talk to you today about one of the tools that we've developed as part of that project, which is the Controlled Traffic Farming Calculator. So controlled traffic farming is a simple concept. You don't drive where you go grain, but it's actually really hard when you have to try and match machinery, because it's matching machinery for every single farming operation. And this can be a challenge depending on what machinery you have and what widths you already have. Particularly, I'm told, if you have a 56-foot conserver pack machine. So what this calculator allows you to do is to input. You can set up all the machinery of your current system. So from harvesting, your seeding combination, this is your chaser bin, spreading, and your boom spray. So in the calculator are some preset machines. There's not a lot, but there are some in there, because I guess there's one, you can buy one model of tractor, but you can have many different combinations of tyres. So it does actually require you to go out and do a little bit of homework, and I'm glad they put a tape measure in your pack there, so when you're all inspired you can go back to the shed and start measuring things. Now, a standard no-till system, say if we've got a 45-foot header, a 55-foot seeder and a 100-foot boom, wheels about 48% of the paddock, and that's not including joules. So by the time you start adding joules on, it gets even greater. So if you set up your machinery system in the CTF calculator, you can then start to have a play and put together your dream CTF system. So changing wheel tracks, spacings, machinery types, whatever you like. And ultimately, a fully matched CTF system is around about 10 to 13%, depending on what width you actually get, but that's what you can try and achieve. So the aim of it is to minimise the amount of paddock that you actually wield. And this one here is an example of a 3-to-1 system with a 12-metre header, a 12-metre seeder, 36-metre sprayer on 3-metre centres, which is probably one of the most common CTF systems that we've got, particularly in Australia now. In the calculator then, you can actually do a bit of, have a look at the cost-benefit type thing. So you can actually compare the two different systems. So this one here is our standard no-till system. You can put in your own grain price, your average yield, and a compaction penalty, which some of you may know if you've had trials on your place. There is this little button here where you can click on and it will give you some compaction penalties that have been measured by research around Australia. And I guess that's something we can populate with research from around the world if we like. It's just a matter of letting me know and we can put them in there. So then you can compare it to, say, in that case, that 13% one, and get an estimated benefit. So in this case, it was a $47 benefit of minimising that compaction back from 40% down to the 13. Now, this is just purely like based on managing compaction. It doesn't take into account any of the other benefits that we see in controlled traffic farming, like reduced fuel use, better operator efficiency, perhaps a less sore back, if the track's not so bumpy, and all those sorts of things. Now, it's also got a couple of little features, and Here, this is what we call the compromised CTF system, which is this 2:1 to 3 fit that Jamie alluded to earlier, because ultimately anyone who's got a 60-foot seater really doesn't, or a 56-foot seater, for example, it's really hard to go back. Even though you might like cutting up your machines, it's a really hard thing. And ultimately, timeliness at seeding and seeding efficiency is becoming really critical in our farming systems. So you might want to go up to a 60-foot system where you've got a 12-metre header, an 18-metre seeder and a 12-metre boom spray. And in this case, when you map it out in the calculator, it comes out as about 18%. But what it doesn't account for is that when you have this system, you do need to mess around on the edge of the fence so that you can set onto your main tram lines. So you actually need to put in an offset. Here, this is where we're messing around on the edge. So in this case, we're actually overlapping the seeder by 9 metres. And if you play around with this here, this offset and offsetter in here, it'll actually change the willing percentage back down to about 14%. So there's many different things that you can play with in this calculator, and it is still under development, so any feedback and things would be very welcome if there's features. We've got 6 months left on the project, and it will be available for you to have a look at during the break time. So particularly, I think, from lunch onwards, once I get it all set up and running, then please come and have a chat to us, and we can show you how it works. Thank you.